This episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra is perfect for more than just the summer heat this year, because not only is it refreshing and crisp with only 95 calories, but Ultra is also the official beer sponsor of Team USA at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Celebrate every point, race, and moment with Team USA and Michelob Ultra for the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Stock up on Michelob Ultra and cheer on Team USA. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, I'm Ian Brannan. In this week's episode, reaction from the Adrian Flux Arena as the Kings Lynn Stars are defeated by the Leicester Lions.
The track there's nothing wrong with the track. It's a little bit different maybe, but nothing untoward, and Leicester were a far better team.
We'll hear from Rob Lyon, and our main guest in this week's episode is Stewart Dickson, the Leicester Lions team manager in what is a crucial part of the season for Leicester. So we'll hear more from Stewart Dickson himself. Also reaction from the National Speedway Stadium as the Belle Vue Aces defeated the Birmingham Brummies.
Birmingham sort of took advantage of the inside gates and gave us a little bit of a scare, but I always knew that our boys had the strength.
We also hear from Nigel Tolley, who potentially has some positive news for fans of Birmingham regarding 2025.
And I should love to be able to such as go down to Cardiff and be in a position where we could start to put a team together.
And from the Cab Direct Championship, the Pool Pirates march on, building up a lead at the top of the table at this moment in time. We hear from their number one, Richard Lawson.
A clash of the big ones when we always meet, and especially when you've got Bomber against you, you know you're up for a big challenge. So, it was really good to get one over on them.
And we hear from British Speedway's newest signing, Patrick Baek is now a Plymouth Gladiator.
I know I didn't make any points today, but I feel like we was getting closer and closer. But I only just got 3 heats.
More from all of these and much more to come as well, and we'll look ahead to the fixtures for a very busy week ahead.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along, I'm Ian Brannan, and we start off with some sad news. The ACU, SCB and BSPL deeply saddened to announce the passing of our dear friend and colleague Tony Steele. Tony was best known for being a long-standing FIM Speedway Grand Prix and SCB referee, where for many years he was a familiar figure at tracks across the country and indeed across the world. As a senior FIM Track Racing Commission member, ACU Vice President, Chairman of the Track Racing Commission and Bureau member of the Speedway Control Bureau, Tony worked tirelessly behind the scenes as a much respected member of the ACU, SCB and FIM track racing family. His contribution and loss to the sport he loved is immeasurable, and we'd all like to send our sincere condolences to Tony's family and friends at this very sad and difficult time. The FIM Speedway Grand Prix have also passed on the news and paid their own tribute to Tony as well, obviously focusing on some of the vast experience that he had, not just in Speedway, but also taking charge of events in every track racing discipline: grass track, long track, flat track, sidecars and ice racing. Tony working tirelessly behind the scenes to better all forms of track racing. And of course, everyone in the FIM Speedway family passes on their gratitude, first of all, for his immense contribution to the sport, and sending their condolences to his family and friends at this time. Tony was an active referee, and one of his other jobs was organising the officials for the British Speedway Grand Prix in Cardiff every year, which pulls together various members of the staff of a number of clubs from across the UK, right from timekeepers and clerks of the course, machine examiners and so on. And Tony, of course, his loss will be particularly felt next weekend when the Speedway world gathers at Cardiff's Principality Stadium. Joining me on the podcast this week is Stewart Dickson, team manager of the Leicester Lions and the Berwick Bandits. But of course, you've been around Speedway quite a long time. You will have had many encounters, I'm sure, with Tony Steele. Just give you your chance to pay your tribute and respects to Tony, and tell us about what he was like as an operator, because I know from speaking to many riders, many team managers, everybody in Speedway, saying, you know, what a safe pair of hands he was, and a hugely respected referee in the world of Speedway.
It's a sad day. I think it came as a shock to all of us, and it'll not be quite the same. I mean, he would come quite regular to Leicester Speedway, more so when we're racing Saturday in the Championship. Even when he wasn't officiating, he would still come along. I know he was very close friends with Richard Cassidy, who's our clerk of course at Leicester. And as I say, there'll be a lot of people, you know what I mean, who will be touched by this when they heard the news this morning. He was a very good referee, but he also had a good way of talking to you and dealing with you. And they also, and after he kind of made, you phone him up to maybe say, oh, I didn't think this was right, he would tell you his side of things, and then he'd politely put the phone down on you, so you didn't have really much chance to then argue back, sort of thing. I actually only had, 2 or 3 times on the phone with him. I don't recall any time where we fell out anything over it. You know what I mean? He came to Leicester regularly, obviously, because he was based in Leicester. He's local. He'd been came to the Speedway quite a lot when I came down in 2019. So I kind of got to know him a little bit better than what I had previously, obviously, at my Glasgow spell. But like everybody else, really shocked and saddened to hear it. Chris Durno was at the practice today, just observing him, the wee watching. I think he was quite shattered looking with a wee chat about it. You know what I mean? And it's such a shame. And I obviously, his family comes first, but also secondly, a big loss to the sport. I don't think I've heard anybody who had a bad word to say about him.
And that extends to the riders as well, doesn't it? I know he was hugely respected among the riders, and the referees, of course, can not always be a rider's favourite official at a speedway track. But Tony had that respect, and I know from doing other podcasts in the past where we've talked in detail about referees that a lot of riders, if they could have any referee their meeting, they would have chosen Tony Steele.
Yes, definitely. Just to echo what you said, obviously, about the riders, they enjoyed. When I would see it, Jim McGregor, who oversees the fixtures for referees, fixture compiler, you'd send it out and you'd see, you were getting Tony at one of your home meetings sort of thing. It kind of felt good because he was regarded as obviously one of the very, very best. So when you were getting him at Leicester, you thought, we're getting one of the best referees that's going to be doing a fixture. Not to say that other referees were inferior, but he just had a way about him. I don't know, he didn't get involved in tattle and nonsense. He was above that all sort of thing. And for me, he was very fair. You know what I mean? Such a shame.
Tony Steele, who passed away age 69 this week. Let's look back at the action from the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership on Monday, and the Leicester Lions moved within the top 4 after an emphatic 52-38 win at Kings Lynn. The Lions are in their best form of the season and now ahead of rivals Oxford in the race for a playoff place and still have matches in hand, crucially. Max Frick scored a 12-point maximum at the Adrian Flux Arena. Luke Becker, who bagged 13, won his first 4 rides before missing out on a full house in Heat 15. Jan Kvek with 11 plus 1 bonus points, and reserve Patrick Baek got 11, topping the Stars' scoring, but they're now left adrift of the top 4. Well, Stewart Dickson is with us. We'll get the Leicester point of view in a moment. First of all, let's hear from the Kings Lynn Stars team manager, Rob Lyon.
A strange one because we've been pretty dominant at home, generally been going really well, but there's nothing wrong with the track. It's a little bit different maybe, but nothing untoward, and Leicester were a far better team. I think that shows in race wins and the way they've attacked it and the way they've ridden tonight. So fair play to them, but yeah, just a strange one for us tonight.
The thoughts of Rob Lyon. Of course, Stewart Dickson is with us on the podcast this week, the Leicester Lions team manager. And Stewart, obviously you never know what these fixtures are going to throw up. You do have these meetings in hand over Oxford, who going into the meeting on Monday were ahead of you in the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership. But those meetings in hand are only worth anything if you cash them in. And so this victory over Kings Lynn is the first step along that way to securing the playoffs for Leicester.
I think it was definitely a big meeting for both teams last night. We had it in our plan, sort of thing. We just go and try to win the meeting. We'll see where we are, sort of thing. If we're going to hang on for a point, the aggregate point, just basically the riders. It was just a case. Listen, let's go for it. Go for a win. Let's not overthink it. And that's what we've been doing recently. We're trying not to be overthink or overplay stuff, and it's working for us at the moment. It was a big 3 points for Leicester. Puts us into that top 4 spot. But as you rightly touched on there, we've got matches in hand, but a team manager will always tell you in any sport you'd rather have the points on the board. The good thing is we still have the opportunity to add more points to our tally. And, I'm looking at our fixtures, and, there'll be tough fixtures. I know we'll get Birmingham coming up on Thursday night, but look at the scare that they gave Oxford. A Tom Brennan exclusion arguably maybe cost them a draw that night. So we're under no illusions how tough it will be on Thursday against Birmingham. But we are, I'm no longer going to say coming into a bit of form. We're actually in form now. That's been the last 6 or 7 meetings. We've been very good, very competitive. But the key is, as boring as it sounds, we have to keep it going. We just need to keep going.
And looking at Leicester as a whole, as you say, you are one of the informed teams now. But particularly, obviously, Max Frick, he's your star rider. He's delivering. But also now Luke Becker, who had some early season troubles, I guess, in terms of form and delivering, or not delivering the points that maybe you expected. But he's really turned that corner now, hasn't he, Luke Becker? And last night, maybe unlucky to miss out on a full house, actually, a maximum score.
He started off in the first meeting of the season, like a train. I think he scored 11 plus 2 on our opening night. And it was, I thought to myself, yep, this is the rider was signed, And then it kind of dipped away, and then it got to a point where his scores were getting really low. And I think also his confidence was getting really low. Confidence does play a big part in any sport, but I think more so Speedway. It's an individual riders within a team. That's how I see it. We could be winning, but if Luke Becker was scoring 2 or 3 points, then he's not just as happy as the rest of the team, if that makes any sense. They want to all do well individually. He's now doing what we thought he'd do, and the message to him is he has to keep doing what he's doing, because he set the standards now. He knows he can do it. His confidence is good. I think there's a weight lifting off his shoulders. He seems a much more bubbly character. He's no down and no really giving you eye contact. I think it's difficult when they're in that sort of rut and they can't get out of it. But he's certainly picked up his form. We never thought at any time to look to replace him or anything like that, because we didn't. I didn't want him going to one of our rivals, because I knew that class is permanent. He was going to pick up. He has picked up, and Leicester, with the loyalty we've shown him, he's now delivering the points that he should have been doing. Through that wee bad patch.
And I think it was more of a surprise that he maybe wasn't delivering those points, considering that obviously he's qualified for the Grand Prix Challenge, I think, hasn't he, later in the year, and a lot was sort of said about him maybe being a wild card in the Grand Prix, should the Grand Prix maybe end up going to America. It hasn't yet, but you never know. So, it has been a big year for him. I'm sure he would have been as disappointed as anybody else. And I remember being at that fixture for BSN where I think he shed a couple of chains, didn't he, in the early part of the meeting, or 2 or 3 maybe, I'm not sure. And then he got going, and I think since then he's sort of been flying, but just getting these gremlins sorted, and now he's looking good.
Yep, he shed 2 chains that night, I remember, and he won his last 2 races. And they said to him, you need to take away the last 2 races and bring it on to your form for the following weeks. He has done that. He was very, very fast last night. He was the top scorer. I went with him and Richard Lawson, and what we do when the match is kind of won, I said to Luke, you're the top scorer. What gate would you like? He opted for gate 2. In hindsight, we should have went 1 and 3, because myself and Richard Lawson both felt 1 and 3 were the best gates. But Luke wanted 2, which, and I dare say if it'd been a last seat decider, I think it might have been a bit more forceful. But it was a great pass with Bomber to get Luke on the line. But probably, without being disrespectful, if it was a last seat decider last night, we'd have went with Max Frick and Luke Becker, and I'm pretty sure I'd insisted that they went off against 1 and 3. But I never discussed that with David Rowe when he phoned me last night, because I didn't want to take the shine off anything we'd done. To lose a 5-1 in Heat 15, and fair play to Kings Lynn for getting that in Heat 15, we still won by 14 points. I think that says a lot about the Leicester performance last night.
Strong performance in the end, and it is, as you say, a busy time now for Leicester in the Row Motor Oil Premiership. And as you said, what could be a tricky clash between yourselves and the Birmingham Brummies. You got Birmingham home and then away at Perry Barr next Monday, so you're meeting them twice in the next few days. And as you mentioned, you fancy that. Or I've seen Birmingham race twice doing BSN, and they're not a bad side now. They've got decent riders in there, and you do fancy that they are going to get a victory before the end of the season. They came very close to it, as you mentioned, against Oxford last week. And I guess it is one of those potential banana skins, isn't it, for a team like Leicester, maybe there?
Without a doubt, they're riding without any pressure. If people can understand what I'm saying there, and that's no be disrespectful. That they're not challenging for a top 4 spot. So the riders, should be able to go out and just enjoy yourself. It's always like you enjoy yourself more when you're winning races. We just need. We'll be treating them just the same. My team talk will be the same. We know we've done well on the season there before it get curtailed with the weather, with the rain, and a lot of my riders like the track. But I look at them now. Obviously, Zach Cook, Michael Pam-Toff coming in. I know Stevie Worrell's got a bit of an illness at the moment, sort of thing. But Zach Cook's come in and done a great job. Michael Pam-Toff is getting his form back as well. So they look a bit more solid. There's a more solid look about them. We first of all just have to try and win the meeting on Thursday night without getting any fanciful ideas about X amount of points to take to Perry Bar. And that's the way we're approaching stuff now. Just kind of trying not to overplay it and just not overthink it. Obviously, as the meetings go on, you get closer to cementing that place in the top 4, which is their aim, then it'll take on a new meaning. But at the moment, we're just trying to be quite grounded. But we are aware of the situation, that we are doing well, and we want to keep this winning run going. Yeah.
And then looking ahead towards the end of August, of course, you've got the real decider then, because you've got Oxford still to come home and away as well. So that is going to separate it, isn't it? And I guess you'd rather things be maybe a little bit more comfortable as far as Leicester are concerned going into that, rather than that being ending up as some kind of decider with all riding on it, because you've kind of been there before last year, and I'm sure that memory lives long.
It does. You're right. You look at the fixtures. Obviously, the Oxford home and away could have a significant bearing on who reaches the top 4. It's going to be difficult. They've won a lot of matches at home, not by big margins, but the bottom line is they find a way to win at home, and that's a sign of a good side. That's a sign that their manager pushing them on, making sure they get there. That they're a good team round their home track. So we're under no illusions how difficult it'll be when we have to go there. We gave them a bit of a scalp in the first time round when they came. I don't think we'll see such as a big home win the next time. But obviously, as I say, it's no playing it down. It's just trying to make sure we get wins at home. I know we've been scoring well, high, in the 50s, mid 50s. We're not going to get that all the time. I'm not kidding. This league's too strong for that to happen. You also touched on, obviously, we lost it in the last heat at Peterborough last season, sort of thing, which, it's been well documented. We lost Nick Morris, and then we brought in Richard Worrell, we then lost him, sort of thing. And we kind of contributed towards our own downfall. I dare say I could have made a change or two, maybe slightly different what I'd done, but you go with what you think. I think I was criticised a few weeks ago by certain members of the supporters, even Leicester fans, about bringing Craig Cook in, sort of thing. And I've always said I do what I think is the best for Leicester. Always try and get that wee bit extra to try and squeeze something, to do something maybe that other managers won't do. I'll think out a wee bit outside the box, and that's the way it's looking. And at the moment, it's looking good. I know Cookie missed last night. Louis Kerr stepped in and done a really good job for us. But Cookie's last match where he scored paid 11. And that's the sort of scoring that he can bring to the reserve berth. And with the top 5 that we've got, it complements it really, really well. And Sam Hagan, last night, apart, he's been scoring in with 2 and 3 points, which is vital. He's only going to get better. So there's an eye on him for next season as well. But no, we do have that right solid look about us, sort of thing. And obviously allowed a guest last night of decent capabilities. Louis Kerr scored paid 8. I'm sure Craig Cook hopefully would have done something similar. And that's the way we're kind of built this year. And we're going for it. That's the thing. But we need to make sure we're in, because, as you say, we slipped up in the last match. We only got, I think we needed 34. We couldn't even get that, and I include myself in that. So we never deserved it to reach the playoffs and end up. But this time we're coming into form, maybe at just the right time. Could be a peak too early. We'll know that in the next few weeks. But confidence is high, and touch wood, we don't get the injuries, I think we'll continue the form that we're on at the moment, hopefully, right to the end of the season.
More to come from Stewart Dickson as we go through the podcast. Right now, just look back at their fixture at the National Speedway Stadium on Monday night. Belle Vue keeping up the pressure at the top of the Row Motor Oil Premiership with a 53-37 home win over Birmingham. The Aces taking maximum points from the meeting and now within 5 points of leaders Ipswich, although they have raced one more fixture. Brady Kurtz scoring 14 from 5 rides against the Brummies, dropping his only point to Freddie Lindgren in Heat 11. Ben Cook chipped in with 11+1. Tom Brennan scored 9 for the visitors, who did make a bit of a comeback after going 16 points down after just 7 races before the Aces finished strongly. Let's hear from the Belle Vue team boss then. Here's Mark Lemon with Ryan Guest.
A 53-37 win over the Birmingham Brummies in the end. Your thoughts on tonight's meeting?
Mission accomplished, really. Like we knew that Birmingham would have come back here far stronger with Freddie Lindgren in the team than they were here in the previous visit. So we had to make sure we upped our game and prepared for it. I think the boys did really well. Obviously there was a bit of a blip mid-meeting where Birmingham sort of took advantage of the inside gates and gave us a little bit of a scare. But I always knew that our boys had the strength to finish strong, and that's what they did.
Yeah, you used to finishing strong here at the National Speedway Stadium in particular, but the start the boys got off to tonight, raced into a 16-point lead with 7 races gone. That was impressive stuff in particular.
Yeah, it was, but if you look at the gate stats, you could probably see why that was the case. So as flattering as the scoreline was, it probably wasn't a true reflection of the performance from the Birmingham Brummies and the event tonight. But yeah, some really good races out there, some nitty-gritty stuff. Watching Freddie Lindgren in full flight was magic. It took him a little while to get going, which is unusual for him, but Heat 13 and Heat 15 were certainly one for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, great to have obviously Dan back at number 1 tonight as well in the team.
I think I meant to say connoisseurs. But no, yeah, absolutely. And obviously number 1, you fear for when someone's had a head knock how it's going to be lasting or it's not. But he looked like his usual self, and it was just normal. Presumed as normal.
Yeah, like you say, boys getting into their stride just at the right time of the season. Obviously, you got that second away win of the season at Birmingham last Monday. A chance to build on that at Kings Lynn on Thursday now.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I mean, obviously we had a few changes at the bottom end just recently, but the main body of the team's been quite settled for some time. You say they're sort of really starting to find the right sort of form at the right time of the season. So I'm pleased with that, but there's still a bit to go into the Premiership.
So there's Mark Lemon. Now, the Belle Vue Aces' next fixture has been postponed. Kings Lynn's home clash with Belle Vue in the Row Motor Oil Premiership, scheduled for Thursday, has been cancelled. The decision taken with the agreement of all parties due to a lack of available riders in order to run a credible fixture, because all of the other teams are racing and there's really not a lot to go at. And Kings Lynn, of course, are left with various holes in their side through injuries and still missing a number 1. And adding to that, Jan Kvek has been recalled by his Polish team to race in Poland in a rearranged Extraliga fixture on Thursday as well, which is the agreement. So can't really have too much argument with that one. All but one of the 7 teams in the Premiership due to race on Thursday. It leaves not a lot of options, and so that fixture will now take place Wednesday, August the 28th. So Kings Lynn racing on a Wednesday, August 28th, for Kings Lynn Stars versus the Belle Vue Aces. And, of course, the two sides face each other on Monday in the Row Motor Oil Premiership at the National Speedway Stadium in a fixture that will be live on Eurosport as well. So Eurosport's back on Monday, Belle Vue versus Kings Lynn, which will now be the first leg of that encounter, Wednesday, 28th of August, for the trip to the Adrian Flux Arena. So the wait for a win continues for the Birmingham Brummies. It's 10 without a win now. Let's hear from the promoter of Birmingham Brummies, Nigel Tolley, who actually has some good news to share, hopefully, cautiously, about the long-term future of the Birmingham Brummies, because that's, of course, been another question. He's been chatting to Ryan Guest.
Well, Nigel, a 53-37 defeat at Belle Vue this evening. Another sluggish start proved very costly in the end.
Yeah, I don't think we disgraced ourselves at all, though, tonight. We made a bad start, and we really started to come back. Then we had the interval and track grading again, and we just lost that momentum. We were really getting into it. But, it's difficult coming to Belle Vue. It's always a difficult track for the away team. And I wasn't expecting great things tonight. And we didn't disgrace ourselves. We really didn't.
Yeah, like you say, the team started coming back into it as well. I think it was 16 points down with 7 races gone, but chipped away, and that mid-meeting spell, there were some encouraging signs.
Yeah, I think that Belle Vue were getting a little bit worried the way we were coming back. But I say that the interval and the track grade changed it all again. We just lost that momentum.
Away on Thursday to Leicester, at home to the Lions next Monday at Perry Bar. They're a side hitting real form at the minute, aren't they? So going to be an interesting Midlands derby, that one.
Yeah, certainly will, home and away. It'll be very interesting. The track will be obviously completely different over at Leicester to what it'll be on Monday over at Perry Bar. And it'll be very interesting.
Obviously, each Speedway club has to take things year by year anyway. In your programme notes last Monday as well, it's been picked up on by a few supporters. You're already starting talking about 2025. What is the current situation as things stand?
Current situation as things stand is that if the Greyhounds are at Perry Bar next year, we should be riding. If the Greyhounds aren't at Perry Bar next year, then we can't afford to take over the stadium just to ourselves. We've worked it out, and the business plan just wouldn't work. It would cost us, it would cost us 4 or 5 times what we're paying at the moment, but we would get it 7 days a week. But with the way the planning regulations are, we just couldn't afford to be there on our own. But if the Greyhounds are going to be there, yeah, I'm really hoping we're going to be there.
Do you have any indications when that decision would be made known to you?
No, not really. I've just got to confirm with ARC that they're going to be there next season. Obviously, then I don't think they know for sure yet whether they're going to be there or not. So we've just got to wait until that's sorted out. But certainly, I should like to be building a team as soon as possible.
I was going to say, because that's where you have been at the disadvantage for the last few years, late to the party in terms of being accepted into the league because of the uncertainty with the venue. But if you could get clarification early, then it'd allow you to start locking riders in early.
Yeah, let's face it, majority of teams have got 80% of their team sorted out before the AGM. I know that's not officially how things are supposed to be done, but that's just the way it is. And I should love to be able to such as go down to Cardiff and be in a position where we could start to put a team together.
OK, what do you think of that then? Birmingham Brummies fans, the words of Nigel Tolley. And let's have a look at the league table. And it starts at the bottom with the Birmingham Brummies in 7th. They're currently rooted to the foot of the table on 6 points from 18 fixtures. Just the 2 league wins so far this season. Above them are the Kings Lynn Stars. They're 6th out of 7. They've got 16 meetings on the board, so 2 in hand over Birmingham now. And they are on 11 points. Of course, Kings Lynn were also deducted 2 points in May for a breach of SCB rules. However, that wouldn't really save them in the current situation, because the Oxford Spires are 5th. They've ridden 20 meetings, 23 points on the board. Crucially, going above Oxford now are the Leicester Lions. They are 4th, 17 meetings, so still 3 in hand over Oxford below them and on 24 points. They've actually got 2 meetings in hand on the Belle Vue Aces, who are on 29 points from 19 meetings. So if Leicester get maximum points out of everything they've got in hand, then certainly that could very much close the gap between themselves and the Belle Vue Aces yet. And then also in the mix are the Sheffield Tigers. They've raced 18 meetings and on 30 points and are 2nd in the table. The Ipswich Witches have also raced 18 fixtures. They have 34 points. So a full 4-point gap, level on meetings between the Ipswich Witches and the Sheffield Tigers. And those 2 sides do battle this week in the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership. It's going to be an interesting one, that one, at Oleton Stadium on Thursday. as the Sheffield Tigers take on the Ipswich Witches. The other fixtures, the Leicester Lions versus the Birmingham Brummies, which begins at 7:30. The Leicester Lions heading away on the road on Monday down to Perry Bar to take on the Birmingham Brummies, and the other fixture being that one on Eurosport, Belle Vue Aces versus the Kings Lynn Stars from the National Speedway Stadium at 7:30. And looking further into the future, we've got a full programme on the 15th as well, which is going to be very big. The Ipswich Witches versus the Leicester Lions, the Oxford Spires versus the Kings Lynn Stars, and we've got the Sheffield Tigers hosting the Birmingham Brummies. So 3 big fixtures, 6 of the 7 sides in action on Thursday, August the 15th. Of course, leading up to that big Grand Prix weekend, maybe you're maximising your time and taking in one of those Premiership fixtures, and then you can head to Oxford for the Championship pairs on Friday night. That's the 16th of August, the night before the Grand Prix. That is going to be massive. There's a cracking lineup announced for that. We'll run through that later on. We'll talk about the Championship in a bit, but that is going to be an excellent evening of Speedway. And plenty of Speedway as well on Eurosport, as we mentioned, on Monday. That match between the Belle Vue Aces and the Kings Lynn Stars. BSN have got a few of those fixtures as well. BSN covering Sheffield versus Ipswich this Thursday, and then heading in the Row Motor All Premiership to the meeting, which will be at Ipswich. Ipswich versus Leicester is going to be on BSN next Thursday, and the Championship pairs also on BSN as well. So for you to check out there. Coming up, more from Stewart Dickson. We'll chat about life at the Pidcock Motorcycles Arena, and also we'll talk about Berwick Bandits as well in the Cab Direct Championship, because Stewart is, he's a busy man. He's got 2 teams to look after, and we'll chat about that in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan. This is the official British Speedway podcast with our special guest this week, the Leicester Lions and Berwick Bandits team manager, Stewart Dickson. And it's a very busy time for Stewart, as we're going to find out in just a moment. But let's just first talk about the Row Motor All Premiership overall, Stewart, and looking towards the sides above yours, I guess, at this moment in time, and the battle for the playoffs. I've got obviously Leicester involved in that, but what about the other sides and your experience of the league so far? Obviously Ipswich leading the way. They've made a great start and remained out there throughout pretty much, and Sheffield and Belle Vue in and among the mix. What's your assessment of those teams?
I think starting with Ipswich, they were on a crest of a wave at the start of the season. Jason Doyle was obviously flying. I think that injury that he got, is going to damage any team. I send my best wishes to Jason Doyle, because he's great to watch around Leicester when he comes. They've managed up to a point to almost cover for him very, very well. Scott Nicholls been one of the main reasons. But in the last couple of weeks, I think Richie Hawkins mentioned it in the press that, I'm not saying there's cracks appearing, but it's been... They're finding it hard to maintain the same sort of form that they've had covering for Doyle all the way through the season. I'm sure they have some sort of plan up their sleeve for the playoffs when it comes to an appropriate guest. I'll not say too much on it other than that, but I'm pretty sure they're quite shrewd. Chris Louis, Rich Hughes, they've been in there a while. They know what they're doing. They, for me, at the time, were the top team out of us all before the Doyle injury came. So, they'll still be very, very dangerous come playoff time. Then you got Sheffield. Ty Woofenden's missing, and that's a big loss. I think more so with the fact that he's the kind of way he conducts himself in the pits. I think Sheffield, he's maybe worth 2 or 3 points to them home and away. Just the way he is. I get told with Damien Bates, Mark Bates, who I'm still in contact with, just the way he goes about his business, it gives everybody else a lift. So, again, will he be back in time for the playoffs? Sheffield will be hoping so. It will be good for the sport, but they will also need to have a plan B up their sleeve, which I'm pretty sure the Bateses and Simon Stead have already looked at. Then you get Belle Vue, very impressive win again last night. I look at their top 5, and I see second strings and Ben Cook and Norrie Bladorn, very, very strong, and they've got a good 3 heat leaders. I think it's fair to say Jamie Lindsay's not been quite the rider he has been this season as he was last year. I thought he'd kick on again. Dan Bewley, Brady Kirk's really strong top two, and the young kid, Antavula, the Finnish boy, we actually used him for Leicester at Sheffield last week, and he was very good. He got 4 paid 5. He's come in and done a good job. So, they're still strong. Belle Vue could rattle 53, 54 against any team and include the other top teams that's in the playoff positions at the moment. So they're very dangerous. So it's difficult. You couldn't pick an outright winner. I mean, if you were to say Oxford, Leicester, Ipswich, Belle Vue or Sheffield, I think most people would maybe go for Ipswich or Sheffield because the league table doesn't lie. But, it is like any other sport. You come into form at the right time. If we were to sneak in 4th place, it's an old saying, but come the start of playoffs, the league table positions go out the window. It doesn't matter anymore, And I suppose the team at the top, the team that finishes top, would be the ones who have got more to lose than anybody else.
Yeah, it's a busy time, and certainly looking forward to seeing how things pan out when we get to the playoffs. And I think a few of the teams going to start showing their cards, aren't they, as we get towards that cut-off at the end of the month. Let's talk about you and Leicester in general, because Leicester have got a lot going on. You've got the new little training track in there. You were hosting this GB training camp this week as well, so you've had some of the top young GB lads there. And really, Leicester Speedway in a fantastic position where the track can be used every day for various different things. There's so much, able to go on there. You've got a pretty busy programme.
Yep, I'm usually down for maybe 2 or 3 days at a time. That's how it tends to be, and then I spend the rest of the time up north at my home base. But like this week, obviously I was at Berwick on Saturday night, so I left Berwick at 9:30. I got to Leicester at 10 to 2 in the morning. And then I'm back in at the track for 8 o'clock Sunday morning because we had the National League Riders Championship round on Sunday, which went great. All the riders came in their vans and left in their vans, which is always the big plus from a track creator's point of view. So I had that on Sunday. Then obviously Monday I was at Kings Lynn. That was last night, and then this morning I'm back in at the track again at 8 o'clock this morning because Lyon had the GB day today from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Managed to get a bit of work on it, get a fair bit of water into it. Also had a Zoom call today with the rest of British Speedway promoters with Phil Morris. So just talked about Premiership for next season, which was a good meeting as well. So and then tomorrow I'll go in and it's time to wash the air fence, wash the kickboards, wash the inside line, get that done. And obviously the practice today, I've still to pull the track back in, which I will do tomorrow. And then on Thursday we've got the final leg and my final day down here, certainly for this week when we host Birmingham. So again, in there early on Thursday morning, getting the water into the track nice and early. I never thought I'd say it. We could do a wee rain shower, 1 or 2. I know the folk would say, "No, don't be ridiculous." But even just a light bit of rain would certainly make the job a little bit easier. But that'll be the case. Stay in Leicester on Thursday night, and then I'll go up the road on Friday. Spend some time with the family in the house, and then it's Berwick on Saturday and away to Workington on Sunday, and then Monday I'm at Birmingham again. So August is going to be mental. It's going to be really busy. But listen, you can hear it in my voice the way I'm talking. This is what I do. My passion for the sport. I love my job, and I'm really looking forward to the Speedway meetings that are coming up. But no, that's a typical. It's not a typical week for me. It's normally maybe Monday and Thursday, and then back up the road on the Friday morning, and maybe no back to the following Thursday or something like that. Sometimes it works out like that. But this last while has been pretty hectic when I read out the schedule like that. Yeah,
it's full on. Well, it's and again, I guess August, September, it is full on. Generally speaking for Speedway, isn't it? There's so many meetings. One thing that people do ask about is this is the bit that fans don't see, I suppose. Is talk us through a day of getting a track ready. Because you obviously say you come in there early, there's a lot of work to be done. So just talk us through the process that you go through to get the track ready for a meeting. Because fans roll up through the gates at half an hour beforehand, or maybe an hour beforehand max, and they don't see the rest of it, and you're there busy on the tractor all day pretty much.
Say for instance, we've had a meeting on the Thursday, and then I'm not back down to to the following week sort of thing. So I would pull the track back in. When I say pull the track back in, I mean I would blade it and pull the track back in on the Friday morning before driving up the road. I also do it on the Thursday night after the meeting if I've got time and it's not been a late finish to the meeting. So that, and then I drive up the road. Then I will come down most probably the day before we're racing. Say we're racing on Thursday, I'll come down on the Wednesday and I'll do a bit of grading on the track, have a look at it, and they're all different track graders. I'll then put probably a bowser of water on it, and what I do I then stand back, and if I see shiny spots, that means I know there's less material in those certain bits, and that's how the way Doc Bridget used to, when he trained me, that's the way we used to always look for it, to see where our slick spots were, and you maybe add a wee bit here, add a bit there. But most times I would be in there on the Thursday morning, probably about 8 o'clock is time enough. And you maybe get 3 or 4 bowsers into it straight away, so you try to get a bit of water into the base. Then, I'd like to get most of my work done the day before, so it's just a case of scratching the surface and adding water and then ripping the starts. But when you've got temperatures like today, I must have put about 8 bowsers on that track today, and that's before 2 o'clock, and we still had dust about 23. So wind, sunshine, I know it's great, but it's not the best for a track curator. But that's what it's kind of like. But I've always said a track curator, for me, is the hardest job in Speedway. And I'm not being blasé when I say that about being a team manager. I think it's easier. The track curator will be the first person in the stadium, and he's the last to leave. And I mean the very last person to leave. He'll lock up. Well, I certainly do anyway, because you're pulling the track back in. As I say, a day for me is an 8 o'clock start, and then getting back to my hotel room for probably about 11:30 p.m. So that's the typical day, how long it will take. And you're shattered at the end of it, sort of thing, because I'm also doing team management duties, certainly at home meetings, along with maybe helping out with the track as well. But there is a couple of guys there that help me, but they're not always there. But so that's the typical day, and there is a lot of work involved, and there's a fine line. I think watering's one of the biggest decision making for a track creator. You got to get your watering right. I think at the last meeting, I left the water just a little bit late. 9 times out of 10, we do get it right. And I'd rather the fans were patient, that you maybe get a 10-minute break after heat 7 or so, and you can water and grade the track, rather than having to flood it for the first 4 or 5 races, so that you don't have to do it. I don't think the riders like a soaking wet track to start with, certainly if they don't make the gate in heat 1 or 2. So that's the way I do it. Every track creator is different, but I think there's a lot of similarities there, yeah.
You're under new ownership this season, of course, as well, with Paul Cairns coming in. Obviously, Paul Cairns and the Cairns name pretty well known to Speedway now. But just talk to us about that side of things, because you've also just had a bit of a change, maybe in at the top. I know we had Damien Bates on about a year ago, where he was saying he wasn't sure how things were going to be this season. But how's life at the Pidcock Motorcycles Arena in general now?
It's not unlike the Bates. Paul Cairns, obviously, he's obviously, we know about his son Will Cairns, the way he's coming through. So him and Will spend a lot of time on the road, going to tracks, certainly abroad. Now it's getting more prominent in Great Britain, because he's turned 15 back in late June. So he's not one of those that stands over the top of you and watches everything you're doing. It kind of lets myself, Jen Crossland, get on with most things, shall we say. He was there today. We're going fine. Our relationship's good. I think he knows I'm hard working. I'm honest. I just do what I've been doing. I've not changed anything different. He's not asked me to do anything different. He's come in and put his own touch on it. He's got the mini track obviously up and running now. He put a new 60,000 litre tanker drain in, because we did the problems with water shortages at Leicester. So he's done a couple of bits, but I think it might be a bit of a slow burner, and you'll see things happening maybe over the next 2, 3, 4 years.
just to talk about Berwick as well, because I guess another season for Berwick really beset by injuries, isn't it? And a frustrating one. This weekend you got a big fixture against the Workington Comets, the last home fixture of the year for Berwick as well. So just your assessment on the season with Berwick, and also look ahead to Workington.
Yeah, it's been tough. I'm not one that likes to give out excuses for injuries, but we lost Rory Slane, who had went from a 758 to an 808. That was rolling average. Rory was actually doing about an 8.5 average. He was having a really good season. He's also very important for us in the pits because he knows side of stuff with bikes that is not really my forte, and I don't know much about them. So obviously we missed him. He got injured just as Louis Kerr was coming back, who started the season off flying as well. Louis unfortunately missed a lot of meetings as well through injury, and obviously Bastien Bopton at reserve. Our team was built around a strong reserve. He came in on a 4-pointer. He's rolling as a 484. Again, he was running about the 5.5 point mark, I think, was his average, and he was scoring double figures most weeks for us at home. He provided a great entertainment value as well, I think, if you talk to any supporters. So in that respect, I never ever thought it was a league championship winning team that we had put together at Berwick, but I think we certainly would have been, 4th, 5th or 6th, running about there fighting to get into the top 4. Unfortunately, it's not worked out like that, and you can make excuses and blame injuries all day, but ultimately we weren't good enough. But what I will say is our home losses, the 3 home losses in the league this year at home, I think 2 were by 2 points and 1 was by 4 points. So we're not getting hammered 35-55 at home by any teams. We're certainly more competitive. And MD, who was at Sheffield Park last Saturday night, was a witness to super heat with Scott Nichols, Drew Kemp and Louis Kerr going at it, Hammond Tongs, and all leaving each other enough room to allow the racing, and we managed to win that meeting. So it's still a happy place. It certainly was on Saturday night, but what you touched on, if you're not in the playoffs, I've got a busy time coming up, hopefully with Leicester, whereas Berwick, it's almost criminal that after this weekend we don't have any competitive fixtures. That's the nature of the sport, something I believe that needs to be looked at. But you don't qualify for playoffs, your season finishes early, and unfortunately, as for us, we've got Saturday, Sunday this week, which we'll be doing our best, certainly win the home meeting, but also hopefully put up a really good performance on Sunday. But I think it's a shame that they were finishing the season so early. We're only into mid-August. I think it's a travesty.
And you only had a couple of home fixtures, I think, from June really onwards, because you had that, was it 6 weeks break or something like that?
Which again, I mean, I know I've spoke to 1 or 2 other championship guys. I know I'm not a promoter in the championship as such, but obviously I do know them. And I'm very much of the opinion that this one meeting in 5 or 6 weeks is not any good at all. We need more regular racing than that. People get in the habit of not going to Speedway. People can get into the habit of doing something else, especially if it's not a great night. They go, we'll just give it a miss. We'll just phone in a food order or something like that. Just sit and and maybe just watch your own updates or something like that. I don't know. But when they come, certainly when I was a kid, I remember Friday night was Speedway night. My dad used to take me with Hampden, Coatbridge sort of thing, Blantyre, Shawfield, Ashfield, sort of thing. I'll change to Sunday, but that was the night. There was never, I don't recall when I was at summer holidays, when I was off school, primary school or high school, I've not almost seen any Speedway through the summer. Those are the weeks that we should be running, and we need to get it sorted, certainly at championship level, yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree, and hopefully we can find a solution for that. But your final meeting of the season at Sheffield Park then is this Saturday, Berwick versus Workington, and starts at 7:00. You yourself, though, as we've touched on quite a bit, you have got a very busy month personally with all of your Speedway commitments, including a very busy time, obviously, at Leicester.
Well, the more the better, certainly, when it comes to Leicester, because if we're still running meetings in September, that means that we'll finally, I think the first time in the club's history, we'll ever reach the playoffs in the top league, and that would be an achievement for the riders, the management and all the supporters. We're all in it together, and that's the plan, to try and do something that the club hasn't managed to do yet.
team manager of the Berwick Bandits, Stewart Dickson. Thanks for joining us, Stewart, and certainly going to be a busy end to the season for Stewart with all the action, particularly for Leicester in the Rowe Motor Oil Premiership. Coming up in the final part of No Breaks, No Fear, we've still got a couple more interviews to go, in fact, including a Leicester rider, Richard Lawson. But Richard Lawson with his Pool Pirates hat on will be joining us in the next part. And we hear from another new signing on the South Coast, Patrick Baek, who's made his debut for the Plymouth Gladiators. All on the way on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Well, let's turn our attention to the Cab Direct Championship for this final part of the podcast today. And we'll begin with, one of the big clashes of the season. It was the repeat of the grand final in the Cab Direct Championship from last season, which saw the Pool Pirates take on the Glasgow Tigers at Pool Stadium. Richard Lawson scored a 15-point maximum as the Pirates extended their lead at the top of the table with a convincing home win over the Tigers. Lawson reeled off 5 straight wins for the Pirates, who took a 55-35 victory to move 7 points clear and close in on confirming their playoff place. Captain Ben Cook added 11 plus 1. Tom Brennan scored 10 plus 1 bonus, and recent reserve signing Vinnie Ford chipping in with 8 as well. Chris Harris and Matic Ivicic won 2 races apiece for the Tigers, who were a point behind 4th place Workington, but with a match in hand. Let's hear from Richard Lawson right now, chatting to Ryan Guest.
Well, Richard Lawson, it was a terrific victory for the Pool Pirates over the Glasgow Tigers, and it was always a meeting that the team were really fired up for with everything that went on last year.
Yeah, absolutely. We felt like we owed them one big time. So, they're a big club, Glasgow, and obviously rich history with Pool as well. So I think it's a clash of the big ones when we always meet, and especially when you've got Bomber against you, you're up for a big challenge. So, it was really good to get one over on them.
It was another great team performance as well, but for yourself individually, must be delighted to be able to lead from the front the way you did.
Yeah, it was good. Just everything was clicking. The track was good, and it was just one of those nights that kind of fell into place and almost felt easy. But you appreciate those ones.
Scunthorpe are at Wimborne Road next Wednesday as well. Obviously, they're doing pretty well in this year's Cab Direct Championship as well, so expecting a tough test there as well.
I am, yes. Obviously, they're sitting second, I believe, at the minute, and they really struggled the other week when they were there in the Knockout Cup, and I think they'll have learnt from that and they'll be back with a vengeance. So, tough one.
A quick word on some of the team members as well. Pool actually came in for a little bit of criticism when they let Max Perry go. Taking Vinnie Ford on for his first championship team spot was always a gamble, but certainly at the minute seems to be one that's paying off for the Pirates.
Yeah, you'd almost think Pool know what they're talking about. It was it was a brave call, and it's paying off. That was a very, very good move, and he's fit into the team really well, and you just cannot knock the kid for trying. And I think he's only been in a couple of weeks, and I see a massive improvement already. So just throughout the whole team's clicking, and we're on a roll.
And you say for Vinny as well, you say you can't knock him for trying. Certainly erratic in his first few meetings, certainly still turning on the style as well, but the points already coming, which is a great plus.
Yeah, exactly. He's chipping in with more than what we expected, and he's going above and beyond. So it's great to see. He's all action, and that's all you can ask for from a kid at that age.
And obviously Pool won the BSN series last year, missed out on the so-called big two, obviously the league and the cup as well. So has that fired up everyone around Wimborne Road even more this year?
For sure. I think some clubs would have seen that as a positive season, winning a trophy and being in the other finals. But we didn't take that lightly. It was a big loss, and it was hard to take. So we won all them trophies back. We're greedy down there, and we're looking good at the minute, but still a long way to go.
Elsewhere in the Cab Direct Championship, the Redcar Bears moved themselves into the top 4 and into a playoff place after a home and away clash with the Workington Comets last weekend. The Bears got the better of the Comets at the Echo Arena, but Workington edged out Redcar as their Cab Direct Championship clash at the GT Tyres Arena went right down to the wire. The Comets pulled back a 4-point deficit to edge ahead with 2 races remaining, and in the finale, Antti Vulas passed Bears' Danny King with the home guest Chris Harris Harris snatching third place from Charles Wright. So a dramatic ending to that one. Vulas collecting a 13-point haul for the hosts. Harris adding 12, whilst Danny King picked up 10 for the visitors. Redcar taking the aggregate point from the weekend fixtures, and it leaves both sides on 14 points. The Bears in the top 4 and the Comets just outside, with both having raced more matches than 6th place Glasgow, who have 11, so it's down for the Tigers to catch up. Plymouth Gladiators defeated Scunthorpe 46-43 as another cracking Cab Direct Championship clash was settled in a last-heat decider at the Coliseum. Former Gladiators rider Kyle Howarth combined with Connor Mountain for a 5-1 in Heat 14 to cut the gap to 3 points, and the Scorpions sent out the same pairing in the finale, but this time Connor Mountain crashed out, enabling home duo Ben Barker and guest Zach Cook to follow Kyle Howarth home for a 3-3 in the rerun. Reserve Joe Thompson won 3 races and scored 11 for the Gladiators. Kyle Howarth racked up 15 from 6 rides for the Scorpions as they comfortably secured the aggregate point. 24 hours earlier, Scunthorpe slammed Plymouth 62-28 at the Eddie Wright Raceway, and of course then bagged the aggregate points overall. Kyle Howarth again on the score chart in big numbers, scoring the 15-point maximum for the Scorpions, consolidating second spot in the Cab Direct Championship standings. Well, after that one, Ryan Guest spoke to the new signing for the Plymouth Gladiators, having made his debut. Patrick Baek is a Dane making his way in British Speedway now, and he's been chatting to Ryan.
You've just completed your first official league meeting in British Speedway. Was it an eye-opener to just how tough this league can be?
Yeah, it was very hard indeed. I think the other guys, they really had a good track at home advantage. The track really surprised us, I think, also for me, and the competition also.
I was going to say, for yourself in particular, who's never been to some of these tracks, it's always going to be a bit of a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, but I know I didn't make any points today, but I feel like we was getting closer and closer. But I only just got 3 heats. But I hope we settle in fast and good.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean to you to actually get your first team spot in British Speedway?
It's enormous, really. I'm really happy to be here and really happy for the chance. You cannot get good by sitting on the sofa and race one time a week. Yeah. I think you have to come over here and really do some meetings, a lot of them.
Yeah, Plymouth have mentioned as well, you obviously came recommended by Bjarne Pedersen as well. Is he someone who's had a big impact on your career?
Yeah, I think he's a great guy, and we came close on the same area, and we come in the same club and home, and he's just a great guy, really.
Yeah, and between now and the end of the season with Plymouth, what do you hope you can achieve here in the UK?
I have to be better than my average, for sure. If I can make 8-10 points every time, I'll be really happy.
And the Plymouth track is it's a bit different to the rest, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's first time it was very surprising because of its size, but I also think when you get the hang of it can be okay.
Patrick Baek of the Plymouth Gladiators. Now then, a couple of other bits of news before we wrap things up. And a top-class lineup's been announced for the 2024 Championship pairs at Oxford on Friday, August 16th. All 9 Cab Direct Championship clubs competing in the meeting, which is always one of the most popular of the season. A fantastic occasion. And, of course, it's less than 24 hours before the British Grand Prix in Cardiff. So factor it into your travel plans. If you can make it, you are not going to regret it. I'm can assure you that. Glasgow, the defending pairs champions. Last year, they won it through Chris Harris and Benjamin Basso. Of course, only one of those remains in the Glasgow side. So Chris Harris will be this time partnered by Steve Worrell, brackets TBC, because Stevie's been out ill. So he's penciled in to join Bomber at the pairs. And again, we'll have to get confirmation on that nearer the time. Here's the rest of the lineups competing in that one then. Plymouth represented by Ben Barker and Dan Thompson. Berwick with Louis Kerr and Drew Kemp. Redcar through Charles Wright and Danny King. Edinburgh with Josh Pickering and Justin Sedgman. Workington will track Troy Batchelor and Craig Cook. Scunthorpe Scorpions, Michael Palm-Toft and Kyle Howarth, and the Pool Pirates, Richard Lawson and Ben Cook. And finally, the home team, if you like, Oxford, with Scott Nichols and Sam Masters representing. So it's very much similar to the Speedway of Nations, if you're not familiar with it. It's the same sort of scoring format, 4-3-2-0. And after Heat 18, the top 4 scoring pairs progress to the semi-finals, and the winners of each semi contesting the final. So simple as that. Get down there. Gates open at 5:30, and you can actually go in the pits at Oxford between 5:45pm and 6:25pm. Get right in there. And then parade takes place 7:20. First race 7:30. So factor that one into your plans if you're heading down to Cardiff, or even if you're not. I mean, you're in the area. That will be an absolute cracker. Definitely, you can't say that the best 2 pairs of each side are not representing their sides this year in the championship pairs. Elsewhere, Joe Thompson became the second winner of a National League Riders Development Series individual event this season when he scored a 15-point maximum at Leicester on Sunday. Joe Thompson was joined on the rostrum by William Cairns and Vinnie Ford after an entertaining meeting at the Pidcock Motorcycles Arena. So well done to Joe Thompson winning that one. And William Cairns marked his official debut for the Belle Vue Colts in the National League after 2 previous guest appearances elsewhere in the NDL. Another bumper score as well, 17+2 on his debut for the Belle Vue Colts. The Manchester club edging out Oxford on Friday. Cairns and Sam Hagan clinching the win together with a 5-1 in Heat 15. And due to rider unavailability, the scheduled standalone British Youth Championship round at Plymouth on August 13th has been postponed. It's now going to just be a 250cc class who are going to compete in the championship round as a second half event at Plymouth after their Cab Direct Championship fixture versus Glasgow on Saturday, August 10th. But the Young Lions like to thank the Plymouth promotion for their continued support of British Youth Speedway. So let's have a look at the full fixture picture then as we go for this week. Starting on Wednesday, Cab Direct Championship, Oxford versus Plymouth. And it's the Pool Pirates versus the Scunthorpe Scorpions at 7:30, which is also live on BSN on Wednesday night. Thursday, Road Motor Oil Premiership. And as we already mentioned, the meeting between Kings Lynn and Belle Vue has been postponed. So just the 2 meetings, Leicester versus Birmingham and Sheffield versus Ipswich. That one also on BSN, 7:30 start time. Friday, Cab Direct Championship, Edinburgh versus Glasgow at 7:30. And Scunthorpe versus Poole, the return leg at the Eddie Wright Raceway. National Development League action as well between Middlesbrough and Leicester at Redcar at 7:30 on Friday. Saturday, Cab Direct Championship, it's Berwick versus Workington at 7 o'clock at Shieldfield Park, again on BSN that one. Plymouth versus Glasgow at 7 o'clock, followed by that British Youth Championship 250cc round. Sunday, Cab Direct Championship, Workington versus Berwick at 3 o'clock at the GT Tyres Arena. And next Monday, in the Road Motor Oil Premiership, it's Belle Vue versus Kings Lynn, live on Eurosport, that one, and Birmingham versus Leicester at 7:30. And that takes you through the next week. It is a very busy week in Speedway between this week and next week, throughout next week, leading up to that pairs meeting on Friday, and then leading up to the Speedway Grand Prix on Saturday at the Principality Stadium. And we will have all the build-up you need for that next week on this podcast, hoping to get Phil Morris on, Premiership CEO and, of course, race director for the Speedway Grand Prix on next week's episode. We'll see you there.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.